The thunder outside wasn't loud enough to drown out the sound of my own heartbeat. Aunt Lila, Lila to everyone else, sat across from me like she had all the time in the world. Her hands were folded neatly on the table now, the folder resting between us like a live wire. The kitchen clock ticked loudly on the wall, each second stretching thinner than the last. "You don't have to open it," she said calmly. "You already did." I looked, I snapped, then immediately regretted the sharpness in my voice. "That doesn't mean I understand." She studied me the way people do when they think they already know the ending of your story but want to see if you'll surprise them. "You were always the smart one," she said. "Too smart for the answers you were given." I pushed the folder away slightly, as if distance could make the words inside less real. "Why now? Why bring this up now?" "Because you came back," she replied. "And because running only works when you don't circle back to the same place." Her gaze drifted to the doorway, checking that my mother was still upstairs. Then back to me. "You think it was coincidence you lost that job? Or that you felt so restless you packed up your life and came home?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You're making it sound like fate." "No," she said gently. "I'm saying unresolved things have a way of pulling us by the collar." I rubbed my palms together under the table. They were damp. I hadn't noticed until now how tense my body was, shoulders tight, jaw clenched, like I was bracing for impact. "You always did this," I said. "Talk in circles. Make people feel small." Lila didn't flinch. "I make people uncomfortable," she corrected. "There's a difference." Silence stretched between us again. Somewhere upstairs, a floorboard creaked. My mother's muffled voice floated down the hallway, half a conversation I didn't want to hear. I finally pulled the folder back toward me and opened it fully. Photocopies. Old letters. A hospital discharge form. A name I recognized, but not in the way I should have. My throat tightened. "This man," I said slowly, "you're saying he's your father," Lila finished. The word hit harder spoken aloud. "That's not possible," I said. "My mom told me." "She told you what she could live with," Lila said. "Not necessarily what was true." Anger flared suddenly, hot and blinding. "So you just decided to sit on this for decades?" Her eyes hardened for the first time. "I decided to respect your mother's wishes. Don't mistake restraint for indifference." I stood up abruptly, chair scraping against the floor. The room felt too small. The walls too close. "This is insane," I muttered, pacing. "You drop this on me like it's some kind of test." "That's exactly what it is," she said. I stopped and turned to her. "A test for who?" "For you," she replied. "And for her." My chest rose and fell unevenly. "You don't get to decide that." "No," she said softly. "But life already did." She gestured toward the window, where rain streaked down the glass. "You can pretend you never saw any of this. Walk back out that door tomorrow. Go find another job, another city, another version of yourself." She paused. "Or you can stay. Ask your mother the questions she's been avoiding. And find out why your entire life feels like it's been missing a piece." I wanted to scream, to laugh, to deny everything. Instead, I sank back into the chair. "I trusted her," I whispered. "And she loved you," Lila said without hesitation. "Those two things are not opposites, even when it feels like they are." I stared at the table. At the faint coffee ring from Lila's mug. At my own reflection in the polished wood, older than I felt, more tired than I wanted to admit. "Why are you doing this?" I asked quietly. She hesitated. That alone scared me more than anything she'd said so far. "Because I watched you grow up," she said finally. "I watched you blame yourself for things that were never yours to carry. And I watched your mother carry guilt like it was penance." She leaned forward again, but this time her voice softened. "Someone has to break the silence. And you're the only one strong enough to survive it." I shook my head. "You don't know that." A faint smile returned to her lips, sad, knowing. "That's why I said, let's see what you can handle." Footsteps sounded on the stairs. Both of us froze. My mother appeared in the doorway a moment later, phone in hand, her smile already forming, until she saw the folder on the table. The color drained from her face. "No," she said softly. "Lila, I asked you." "I know," Lila replied, standing. "But the truth doesn't expire." My mother looked at me then, eyes wide with something like fear. Or shame. Or relief. I couldn't tell. "You weren't supposed to find out this way," she said. I stood slowly, my legs unsteady. There was a right way. I asked. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. That silence, thick, heavy, familiar, told me everything. Outside, the silence after my mother's words felt heavier than the thunder outside. She stood in the doorway like someone who had walked into the wrong room of her own life. Her fingers trembled around the phone in her hand. I noticed small things then, how her shoulders slumped, how she suddenly looked older than I remembered, as if the years she'd been holding back had finally caught up with her. I never wanted you to find out like this, she said again, her voice barely above a whisper. I laughed softly, a sound that surprised even me. Then how did you want me to find out, Mom? On your deathbed? In a letter you'd never send? She flinched. Aunt Lila stepped back, giving us space, but she didn't leave. She leaned against the counter, arms crossed, watchful. This was her line in the sand. She wasn't crossing it, but she wasn't retreating either. My mother walked into the kitchen slowly and sat down. She didn't look at the folder. She didn't need to. I was young, she began, the way people always do when they're about to justify something that still hurts. Too young. And scared. Of what? I asked. Of losing everything, she said. My parents. My future. Even you. That stopped me. You already had me, I said. That didn't disappear. She shook her head. You don't understand what it was like back then. No safety nets. No second chances. One mistake, and you carried it forever. Aunt Lila spoke quietly from the counter. You carried it anyway. My mother's jaw tightened. I carried it so my child wouldn't have to. I stepped closer to the table, palms pressed flat against it. You don't get to decide what I carry. Her eyes finally met mine. They were glassy, rimmed red. I know, she said. That's the part one got wrong. The rain outside intensified, drumming against the roof like an impatient audience. I picked up one of the papers from the folder and held it between us. Did he know about me? My mother hesitated just a second too long. Yes, she admitted. The words sliced clean. And, I pressed. Did he want to be part of my life? She swallowed hard. He wanted to take you. To raise you himself. The room tilted. You let me believe he abandoned us, I said, my voice shaking now. You let me grow up thinking I wasn't wanted. I thought it would be easier, she said desperately. I thought if you didn't know, you wouldn't miss him. A bitter smile tugged at my mouth. I missed him anyway. I just didn't know who I was missing. She broke then. Tears spilled freely down her cheeks, shoulders shaking. I was wrong, she sobbed. I see that now. But I was trying to protect you. From what? I asked. The truth. From the fallout, she said. From his past. My head snapped up. What past? Aunt Lila straightened. This is the part you really need to hear. My mother wiped her face, hands trembling. He wasn't a bad man, she said quickly. But he was involved in things, dangerous things. People who didn't forgive easily. What kind of things? I asked. She closed her eyes. Whistleblowing. Corporate crimes. Exposing powerful people. A chill ran through me. He was threatened, Lila added. Followed. I saw it myself. My mother nodded. When I got pregnant, it wasn't just about shame anymore. It was about safety. So you erased him, I said flatly. I hid you, she corrected. And I hid myself. I sank into the chair across from her, suddenly exhausted. Is he alive? Another pause. I don't know, she said. The last time I heard from him was years after you were born. He said disappearing was the only way to keep you safe. The words settled over me like ash. All those years of wondering who I was like. Where my stubbornness came from. Why injustice made my blood boil. It wasn't random. You let me believe you were all I had, I said quietly. I was afraid that if you knew you had another choice, she whispered, you'd leave. That confession hurt more than anything else. Aunt Lila pushed off the counter and approached the table. You didn't trust your child's strength, she said gently. That's the truth you need to face. My mother nodded, shame etched into every line of her face. I see that now. I looked between them, feeling like the axis everything revolved around, and like the smallest person in the room. So what now? I asked. No one answered immediately. Finally, Lila spoke. Now you decide whether this story ends in fear or in truth. My mother reached across the table hesitantly, her hand stopping inches from mine. If you hate me, she said, I'll understand. I looked at her hand. The same hand that had packed my lunches, held my forehead when I was sick, applauded at graduations. I don't hate you, I said. But I don't forgive you yet. She nodded, accepting it like a sentence. I need time, I continued. And I need answers. Real ones. You'll have them, she said. Whatever you ask. Thunder cracked again, closer this time. I gathered the papers and slipped them back into the folder. My hands were steadier now. I'm not running, I said, more to myself than to them. Not this time. Aunt Lila's lips curved into a small, satisfied smile. That, she said, is what you can handle. Outside, the storm began to ease, but inside, something far more powerful had been unleashed. The truth was no longer buried. And my life, finally, was my own to confront. Thunder cracked louder than before. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying and undeniable. Whatever happened next would change all of us. Forever.